Welcome to the 50 for 50 podcast for Sycamore View Church in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm your host, Anna Moser. In 2028, our church will turn 50. As we look forward to that celebration, we're taking a look back at the stories and people who have shaped our church. 50 stories over 50 months to celebrate 50 years. I encourage you to jump on our website, sycamoreview.org/50-4-50 to watch a short video telling this month's story. We'll be diving deeper into that story here with a special guest each month. So let's jump right in. So it is January 2025 now, and each year in January, we're going to kind of hit one of our stories that has to do with our location. So this year, we're talking about Project Freedom that launched in 2006. So I have with me today Stoney and LeAn Ramsey. I want to start by just having you guys introduce yourselves and how long you've been at Sycamore View, what brought you here, all that good stuff.
I'm LeAn Ramsey, and we came in May of 1985, okay. A newly engaged couple. I'm looking for a church home here in Memphis, and we were going to look around and try different churches, and the first one we went to was Sycamore View.
Yeah, we came in on a Wednesday night after I had graduated on Saturday, and I guess the first person we heard, maybe not saw, but the first person we heard was Don Stevens. And a lot of you will remember Don Stevens. He had a big, booming voice. He could stand in one corner of the facility and speak, and you could hear him on the other end. And he just kind of grabbed us and pulled us in and didn't let go. So, and he's done a lot of folks that way. And I think that's a big part of why we never went to that second visit, to that second church to visit. So nearly almost 40 years later. And we're still here.
And did you guys get married here?
We did.
That's fun. I think I saw a picture of that not too long ago.
Yeah,
so that's sweet.
We were
Lots
young
of
back
memories.
then.
Yeah. You've raised 3 girls here.
We have.
So
each one of them spent their first Sunday until they went away to college here at Sycamore View.
Awesome. And Stoney, you became a shepherd here in
2010.
2010.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Awesome. And LeAn, you've been a driver of the clothing sale ministry for years and years too.
Yeah, we just celebrated our 20th anniversary doing the clothing sale, so it's amazing. Yeah. God's blessed it a lot.
Yeah, well, both of you guys have fingerprints all over this church, so thank you for being here today to talk with us about kind of this big movement that shaped a lot of things here in our church. When you guys were here, I guess from 85 onward into the early 2000s, do you remember some of the conversations about our location, kind of starting to outgrow some of our spaces? What was it like in that time?
Well, at that time, a lot of churches in Memphis, inside the Memphis loop, which we are just barely outside of, were looking at moving. It's time to move to the burbs, leave Memphis and move out. So that was a big push in that time for a lot of churches in the area. And we were growing here at Sycamore View, had lots of growing pains as far as our facility was concerned. So we began to look and say, do we need to be going to the burbs as well? A lot of our membership was moving to Arlington, Lakeland, those types of areas. So we began to look at, is that something we need to really be thinking about, or do we need to double down here and invest our money here? What do we need to do to best serve the community and to serve God? Is it here or is it there? And I think the more we looked at it, the more membership started saying, I think this is where we're supposed to be.
Yeah, there may have been voices expressing desires to move, but I didn't hear a lot of them. And I just kind of remember it was almost from a standpoint of, okay, we're staying, now what? And I know there was some conversation, and I know our shepherds had conversations. I think they drove some of those questions just to make sure they knew where the membership was. But to me, it was just kind of a logical progression. You know, this was we built this place was built in the 70s. We didn't build it. I wasn't here, but it was built in the 70s. We added the Family Life Center in the 80s. We added a larger auditorium or sanctuary in the 90s. And then it was just kind of logical to have, let's stay here and let's just add the Impact, which was shortly after, I think it was shortly after Jim came. I had to text him today to ask him, what does Impact stand for again? I asked one of our daughters, and she said the same thing I was thinking. That was Michael Phelps Aquatic Center. So, no, it's not that. But yeah, it just seemed like everybody was on board to stay here. And what is God? God's not finished with 1910 yet, so let's stay here.
Yeah. So that kind of created the Project Freedom campaign, which was a $2 million effort and had 3 goals. And the video is a great kind of outline of all of this, but they're the 3 E's: expand our facilities, eliminate debt, and explore new ministries. So that first focus on expanding the facilities led to the 2-story building that we call the Impact, which is Missions, Prayer, and Community. Did I get it right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, Missions,
I was
Prayer,
thinking
and
ministry. No, it's missions, yeah.
Yes, and the new lobby, which I feel like we still call it the new lobby, the front lobby. And you have been the whole time I've been here, and I'm sure it goes even way further back, but huge champions of our youth ministry. All 3 of your daughters went through the youth ministry, and the Impact space really created a spot for our youth ministry to be, where they were kind of meeting in the gym and other places before that. Can you tell us how that space has created more opportunities for ministry over the years?
Well, I think, as you said, the biggest thing is giving the youth ministry a dedicated place that they knew was theirs, and not just, well, we're going to be here one week and we'll be there somewhere else. It's really, this is your space. And I think it's been a great, this belongs to you on Sunday mornings, Wednesday nights, on other occasions. We used to have, if you remember, this is before you, I guess, but we would have like 5th quarter parties where they would come in after football, and just different things, progressive dinners, things that we've had, just things where they know this is my space and this is where I can go and be with my people. So that was why it was so important, we felt like, to really give the kids a space. And we had we needed the space. We were growing.
Yeah, that kind of cemented, I think, I can't really imagine having raised our family anywhere but here. And it's not just because of places like the Impact, but it's the people that were in the Impact. And being able to have that space, not to have to set things up and then take things down. It's just show up and to be a part of that. And a lot of that with Jim and a lot of the things they talked about there were not so much about having fun, though that's always good, but serving others. And I know there have been times where one of the girls wanted to do this or that, and LeAn said, "Well, that's Jim Hinkle's fault." Now, I think she was kidding. Pretty sure she was kidding. But having that space and that personality, it kind of developed the personality of a Sycamore View Youth Group, and to have all of that in one place together, was just, I think, was monumental in kind of building on what Joe had done all of those years without that, but then to bring Jim in and that together was really, really good.
Yeah. And it's neat because that space, there are things that it gets used for now that I don't think were even a part of the plan when it was designed. Like the lower part of the Impact was designed more for like children's ministry kids, and now it's the home of Boys and Girls Club. And after school and during the summer, it is full of kids doing their summer program. And so I don't even think that was on the radar yet when that space was created. And to just see how God knew what it could be used for, and it's just been used to bless a lot of people over the years.
I think there's a lot more that came out of it than we ever thought would come out of it. But and even before we developed our core values and put them on a poster and hung them in the hallway, we had those core values. And part of, I was thinking about part of having that space and that dedicated space to say, hey, you're important enough to have this. It probably touched all of our core values, but especially the give the next generation a compelling story, anticipate the movement of God, connecting people to God, boldly raising up discipleship as a part of this church. And I think all of those kind of tie back to that decision to stay here, drive those stakes in the ground, and let God do what he wants here.
So that second E was about eliminating debt. And our church had been in debt since 1978, and we were paying a pretty big fee each month to pay that off. So there was a big party at the end once that debt went away. Were you guys at that party?
We were.
Okay, can you tell us what that was like?
That
Any
was
memories?
fun.
I think there was like 10,000 people there.
Yeah.
Everybody was there.
Maybe a few less. That was great. It was so much fun. We got dressed up, and whole families came, the little kids, the big kids. Stoney and I were looking at pictures, getting in preparation for this, and we got tickled. There was a picture of Owen Lane when he was about, I don't know, maybe he's 8, 9, something like that. It was real sweet. But it was just so great to sit there and look around and know that we accomplished this together as a family. This is a celebration of when we put our minds together and put our funds together, and just turned it over to God and just celebrating what he did with us. It was such a fun night. We need to do that again.
Yeah, that sounds so fun.
It was great.
Every time I hear about it, I'm like, I love that everybody decided, no, we need to celebrate this. Like, this is a big deal. We've been in debt for a long time, and now getting out of that has opened up a ton of possibilities for new ministry.
Well, it opened up so much that, Eric Wilson, I think about, having an executive minister. It opened up avenues for that, and now Jim doing that. But one of the big things is it opened up the possibility of having female youth ministers. I think we already had children's minister, but and I think about the impact on our girls that Jenna King had and has, and that Fawn had, and now Annika, along with Tyler, that they're having on, and not just for the girls in the youth group, but for the boys in the youth group to see this is what a Christian woman is like. And if it did nothing else than just that, I would take that as a huge success.
Yeah, I love that. Well, the final E was about exploring new ministries, which eventually led to us getting involved in our adopted schools, adding Ukraine and Panama mission partners, and like we mentioned, our partnership with Boys and Girls Club. How have you seen our church changed through those ministries?
Well, I think we've had some really great relationships with our schools, our adopted schools, with Shelby Oaks and the two Kingsburys, and has opened up, and maybe not even so much as for us, but for them. And that, some of those things, we didn't sit down in Project Freedom and say, if we do this, we can have better relationship with the schools around. But God just opened those doors and let that happen. And I remember early on as a shepherd in that meeting, and I was kind of like, I'm not going to talk, I'm just going to listen and learn kind of thing. But I remember the shepherds talking about Boys and Girls Club and try it for a summer. And there was some thoughts that maybe Sports Care or others wouldn't be real happy about that. And it wasn't that it was like, well, doesn't matter what they think. But it was more of a case of we're really talking about different clientele. So let's give it a shot. Let's try it. And I don't remember, we probably did come back and revisit, but I don't remember that we ever came back and said, okay, yeah, let's keep going. It just kind of kept going. It took on. We kind of stayed out of the way and let it go. And we were talking about Tavares last night. I can't walk in the gym when Boys and Girls Club is going on without him walking over, not just yelling and saying, hey, but walking over, how's it going, and so relationships that have come out of that has just been, and we taught some of the Bible classes during that time, kids' Bible. The girls loved having that relationship in class as well. So, yeah.
It's really neat to see how that keeps going. So Eddie Eaton, one of our big listeners of the podcast, was quoted in a church bulletin at the time saying, "It's more than just dollar signs, it's the future. It's the future of our church. It's one unified body accomplishing a plethora of freeing, fulfilling goals." And the body of Christ worked together to reach the goals. So the youth group had a bake sale, the elementary kids collected coins, the women's ministry created a cookbook to sell, and those who God had blessed with much gave large, generous donations. Do you have any favorite memories from that time of the whole church coming together to raise funds?
I think, obviously, planting the stakes in the front yard is just, to me, it was such a moment of commitment that we said, I'm serious. This is where we stay. I kind of felt like the children of Israel making a decision. This is what we're going to do. That was, to me, it's still very vivid in my mind, that Sunday.
I remember two similar situations. This being one, another similar situation. We had a Sunday where back when in the early to mid '90s, and we were meeting in the gym while our auditorium was being modified. And that particular Sunday, the week before, we'd had 3 very tragic events. Could have been, any one of them would have just cast a pall over everything. But we had 3 really tragic events, and even though it was a negative reason, that day it just seemed like we were all one. And that's one time I felt that, and Project Freedom probably was the other, when from the participation. Every aspect, everybody was involved, everybody was in on it, and and Eddie's exactly right. It was everybody doing something different, from cracking open their piggy bank and giving money to selling yard sales or whatever. I did think some of those were some kind of big words for Eddie to be using, but love you, Eddie, but that's okay. Deacon Eaton, he has a way of saying things that hit the mark. So he actually that's perfect right there.
And I love Charlie in the video. She was in high school at the time, and so she remembers a lot of those events too, and being a part of it. And now she's here with her kids and getting to point to things and say I was a part of that. And my family, she remembers being a part of the prayer campaign. There was a lot of prayer efforts around it too. So it wasn't just about the building and money. It was a lot about some spiritual formation and growth too.
We talked to our girls about it, and our oldest daughter said she remembered breaking open the piggy bank and putting money in for that. So it was kind of special. We'd forgotten that, but she remembered it.
Yeah. I love that. So the Great Recession happened during this time and overlapped with that 3-year pledge period, and Kurt Sparks resigned. So 2 kind of big hits during a time of trying to cast vision and look towards the future. So there could have been times of forget about it, let's give up on this dream, but the church persevered. And in the video, I think it's really neat. They talk about Josh and Casey coming here partly because of our decision to stay, that was something that really motivated them, a vision that they wanted to be a part of a church that stayed. And so then they became part of this vision too. So it's neat to see how, even though there were things working against, which I guess that happens in anything we try to do, things are going to work against us, but God was faithful, and the ministry never stopped. So it's been 20 years now since Project Freedom began, which is crazy. How can you see the fruit from that season today in our church?
I can think of a lot of things. When I pull in the afternoons on a random school day and I see the kids getting off the bus and walking up the driveway to Boys and Girls Club, I know that was part of his plan. When I see cars line up on Saturday for a grocery giveaway, I know he saw that. When I hear thousands of little voices screaming for candy on Halloween at Trunk or Treat, I know he planned that. When I see moms leave out of the clothing sale with things that they tell us, how much it blesses their family. I know he saw that. We didn't see it. He saw it. When I see you guys blessing teachers at Shelby Oaks and our little ones riding bikes in the parking lot for bike-a-thon to buy a bike for a kid at Shelby Oaks. I know God saw that. We didn't see it, but I know he saw it. There's just, when I see, and I hear the story about Kendall walking in the back door last Sunday to be baptized at this location. And I know God saw that. 20 years ago, he saw him walking in the door. And he knew that 1910 was where we needed to be. He knew that it was going to bless us. He knew that it was going to bless the 38134. He knew that. And he just used us in a small way to make those things happen.
Yeah, I had forgotten that happened. Those two events were simultaneous. I remember that, and it's like, okay, the world's going to stop, but it didn't. But I don't remember. I really don't remember anybody or any thought about, well, with this recession, maybe we need to. It seems like that's when, and the Sycamore View people, man, there are so many stories that we don't know. Somebody needed a refrigerator. Well, what kind do they want? And the refrigerator shows up, not a used one, but a new one. Those kinds of things. And in all of that, even though times may have been hard and so forth, in all of that, God provided. And, we've been doing a study of God's names. Kurt did one before he left 25 years ago, but we've been doing it. My favorite name for God is Jehovah Jireh. God provides, the Lord provides. And the ram in the thicket. And he always gives us a ram in the thicket. And he was as faithful as we like to think we were through that process, and I think we were as a church, he was 10 times more faithful to us. And that's just who he is. He can't help it. It's just who he is.
Yeah. Gives us confidence for the future, looking back at the past. Yes. Yeah. Before we move on to the last question, is there anything else you guys wanted to share?
Just we're glad to still be part of this family 40 years later. Family is the key word, I think, in that. Ups and downs, highs and lows. When you're family, you work through it. You work through differences, and you just stay. And I think that's what I love about Sycamore View, is that this is our family, and this is where we will stay.
Yeah, that reaches into so many areas. It's one of the things about that we didn't talk about impact, and I mentioned that it was the people there, but all of our girls have somebody, maybe not as old as we are, but close to it, that if they're not really comfortable talking to us, they can go talk to them. And we know that they're going to get basically the same advice they would get from us, but it's easier to hear from somebody that's not your parent. But just those kind of things. I mean, it's just there's probably 50 people that I could pick up the phone right now and call and say, hey, I need fill in the blank. And they would say, where do you need it? When do you need it? What do we need to do? And that's family. That's family. And it's just a wonderful. This is really a cool place. Yeah. It's a really cool place on Sunday mornings, and we've been other places, and it's like, I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but it's not Sycamore View. And it's a really cool place throughout the week to see all the activity. I love driving by. Drives LeAn crazy, but I love driving by like late at night and lights are on. And nobody's there. They just forgot to turn the lights out. But it meant somebody was there. And these blessings that God has given us are being used, and not just on Sunday morning.
Yeah. I love all the different ways our building gets used, and I think that's a big part of being in this location. This isn't just going to sit empty. If we stay here, it's going to be used maybe more than we even wanted sometimes. Things are going to fall apart because they're used so much, but that's just the
better
way.
To wear out than to rust out.
For sure.
Yeah.
I walk through sometimes and I think, oh, that wall needs painted. Oh, this needs that. The carpet needs to be replaced. And then you think, that's because it's loved and used and used and used, and that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't think Jesus would walk through and go, "This is a beautiful building." I think he would say, "Wow, that scratch is there for a reason." Or,
It is very nice, though, Brian.
Yes, he does listen to. Okay, so the final question that I ask everybody is, can you share a short prayer or hope that you have for our church? Because not only are we looking back, but we're also looking towards the future. So we'd love to hear what you guys would pray for our church.
I just pray that we can continue to be a diverse body, that people feel welcome, that you don't have to fit a certain church mold to be welcome here, and to know that they can feel family, just like what we've been talking about, that they can feel like, I see that, and I want to be a part of that, and I want to know about this Jesus that makes you family.
We have been so blessed to be here, and it's hard to say friends and family. A lot of people are related, so you got to be careful who you talk about. But to have so many good friends, I think back to the Thanksgiving before Megan was born in May. LeAn couldn't travel. We couldn't travel, and I don't think we told anybody. We may have told some close friends, but we hear the knock on the door, and it's Larry and Barbara Baker bringing us Thanksgiving lunch, and it's like there's 10,000 of those stories multiplied by all the members that we have, and I hope everybody gets to experience that we've experienced here. It's easy to love this place because this place loves us.
Thank you guys so much. We love the Ramseys. It's hard to imagine Sycamore View without you. So I'm glad that God brought you here and that you've chosen to stay here too. And now that you're empty nesters, still pouring into the next generation and the clothing sale, I'm just really thankful for you both. So thanks for joining us on the podcast today. I hope you'll come back next month. We are going to be talking about the first of our position papers. This one is on divorce and remarriage. So we'll see you then.